Trying to hit all of those at once is really difficult.
That is correct. So compliance is mostly bottom up. So there is little things that you have to do throughout your organization, throughout little parts of your organization that is very difficult to coherently fuse together in a strategy. Anytime you have that fractious response, anytime you have a response that is not driven by a common goal, it is oftentimes going to create more problems because, for example, if you solve your problem in one area with one technology, if the same problem exists in another area, that other area doesn't know about that fact. So they might use a different technology, and suddenly now you have two competing technologies in two parts of your organization solving the same problem, and that's a problem in itself. Other thing is people sometimes confuse compliance with information security. Compliance is not equal to information security. The fact is that if you have good information security discipline within your organization, compliance is a good side effect. But and hence the reason why I said you have to start top down. You have to think about, you have to start at a governance level. You have to establish what is appropriate for the organization. Once you have established what is appropriate for the organization, and you have trained people to follow what is appropriate for the organization, I think most other problems are taken care of on their own. So data management is another big pain point. Most organizations will have a lot of classified or very important data. They will have social security numbers. They will have credit card numbers. They might have your birth dates, your mother's maiden name even, things of that nature. And when you have that large amount of data and you don't have any classification of that data, it becomes exceedingly difficult to manage all of that data. So one of the big future initiatives for future is going to be to make sure that data gets classified within your organization in appropriate categories. Typically, a 4-level category is what is being encouraged right now. I watched the presentation that Eric Cole gave a few weeks ago, and he said that you can start off with a 2-level type of protection, which works as well. Once you have that understanding built into your organization, it's easy to upgrade. Taking that first step, getting it done for the first time around, that's the biggest problem. So once the benefit of data classification is that once you have done that, you can build appropriate access controls around that. So the most easiest thing to do, the biggest bang for the buck is role-based access controls. So you can say, for example, only people in key management group will have access to social security numbers of the employees. So once you have the roles defined, once you have the classification defined and mapped into your databases, it's very easy to establish those relationships where you can define who gets access to what. Then the final point is about data destruction. So I talked about how we are quadrupling data in four years. Now, data destruction is one small step in that direction. I don't think it is going to solve that problem. But if you don't need any data, something that is not of importance to you, why the need to keep it around? Most organizations today don't have good data destruction practices in place. And this is another hot research area right now. Doing appropriate on its own, building intelligence into tools such that they can go about and scan your data repositories and destroy data that is not appropriate for you to maintain. If you can do that in an intelligent fashion, you have solved a big business problem. You have helped control this information sprawl to some degree. Wireless and network perimeter security. So this is a more tactical objective versus a strategic objective, but I put it here anyways because this is a pretty significant problem right now. The fact is that most organizations use wireless devices, and all you need is a scanner, a wireless scanner that you can point in the right direction, and you can tap on what is going on in the airwaves. So if it is unencrypted or not encrypted strongly enough, then you are in big trouble, particularly if it is information of consequence to you. This is how TJ Maxx was exploited. Someone took actually it happened in Minneapolis. Someone took a wireless scanner. They sat outside of the store in parking lot. They pointed their wireless scanner in the direction of the store. They grabbed a bunch of data. It was WPE encrypted. Web encrypted. So it was easy for them to crack, and then suddenly they had knowledge about your entire network infrastructure. And once they had that, everything else is easy. So one of the biggest initiatives for 2008 and beyond is going to be getting rid of WEP and replacing that with WPA, which brings much stronger security encryption mechanisms in place. Network and perimeter security. So there is this fundamental concept of defense in depth, and I'm sure all of you guys understand. It is such a fundamental concept that I'm sure all of you guys understand that already. So multi-layer authentication is one example of defense in depth, where you have to not only authenticate yourself one time, but you also probably have to provide like a physical, such as a retinal scan or your fingerprint reader or something like that, some sort of physical attribute in addition to the password that you were supposed to know. So that's an example of defense in depth. The same concept applies in network as well. So firewall is your first layer of defense. And then besides firewall, inside firewall, then there will be IDS and IPS that will be second layer of defense. And then there will be desktop-based protections such as virus, antivirus scanners and things like that. So that's a defense in depth example. If something were to escape the first layer, possibly it could be caught at second layer or beyond. So the defense in depth is going to be more prevalent in future. The CSOs are thinking about it and trying to make that a requirement for anything new that happens within their organization. Routine penetration tests and vulnerability scans. So this is gaining more and more prominence now. People want to understand, because a lot of things are legacy or have been architected for a while. I don't know if I'm building something new. It's easy for me to address security problems if I'm building something new. But if something exists already, it has existed for 20 years. I don't know what type of vulnerabilities might exist in that. So in that scenario, what makes sense for me to do is hire or get an expert in that area, get an ethical hacker or something like that, get them in-house and have them try to break that system and see whether they were able to do it, and if they were able to do it, maybe fix that proactively rather than be reactive about it. Vendor management. Now, many of you guys might be wondering, what does vendor management have to do with information security? This is why. Most organizations have vendors that they work with very closely, suppliers or non-core functions. So, for example, they might be sending your data to a third-party provider for your health insurance information. They don't manage that in-house. They are sending your data to someone else. So vendor management is going to be a huge area of focus. Any loss of data by a third party to which you send the data is as impactful as if you were to lose that data yourself. It's no different, because I gave my data to my organization. I did not give that to third party. My organization, as the primary receiver of data, has the responsibility to protect that data for me. If they didn't, then there is something wrong with the picture. There is that possibility of loss of reputation and brand damage. So the new push right now is to make information security a part of any vendor management relationship. So ensure that as a part of that agreement, there is compliance with organizational information security standards. Make sure that they are audited by trusted third parties, and there is a reason behind why trusted third parties. The reason is that if you were to do that audit yourself, there might be a vested interest in making sure that that organization passes that audit, and that's why many regulation regimes are requiring that you get that audit done by a third party.